Hi, Ann Thibodeau here, owner of Horizon Coaching Solutions, and welcome to my kitchen. Well, almost my kitchen. This is what's cooking today, the video to watch if you need a boost of inspiration or confidence in the kitchen. I'm here to show you just how easy it can be to cook a healthy meal from scratch for you and your family, even on the busiest of weekday evenings. So, what does a healthy meal look like to you? To me, it means a balanced meal prepared from scratch using whole ingredients with as few processed ingredients as possible. That's it. Let's get real here. One of my most important jobs is to feed my two boys so that they are nourished and thriving and happy. And in order for that to happen, I have to meet them in the middle and, make some meals that they actually enjoy eating, while also encouraging them to develop their palate by trying new foods. It's not always easy. Anyone who is a mom and has tried to feed their young children, it's not always easy. It doesn't always go as planned. But I never let that discourage me from trying again the next day. The key for me is to choose meals that I can make quickly, that will nourish my family, but that won't have me spending much more than 30 minutes in the kitchen. Just like these sweet potato black bean quesadillas, and that's what's for dinner at our place tonight. So let's get started on these sweet potato black bean quesadillas. This is a meal that I love to make for my family. Why? Because it's a vegetarian meal that my kids and husband will actually eat without mentioning that it's vegetarian, noticing maybe, I don't know. I love a quesadilla because it's a great way to use up leftovers that you have in your fridge or some random ingredients at the end of the week that you might be thinking, how am I going to use these up, or what could I possibly do with these? I have the perfect solution. Just throw it in a quesadilla. So the stars of today's quesadilla are sweet potato and black bean. So I'm just chopping one very, very large sweet potato here, and I'm gonna drop it in my measuring cup. So you'll notice that I have about 4 cups of chopped sweet potato here, and that I've left the skin on. We're going to steam these and mash them with the green beans. The skin is where all the fiber is, a lot of extra nutrients. We want to keep the skin on when we can, and we won't even notice that it's there in this case. Next up, we need some black beans. So I actually stopped buying canned beans a long time ago, pretty much when I got my Instant Pots, because I realized how easy it was to just cook a big batch of beans from scratch in only 30 minutes. You don't need to pre-soak them or anything. So what I love to do is throw them in my Instant Pot. Today I used my 3-quart Instant Pot, and I did 2 cups of black beans, and I just filled up the pot with water. Now they're all ready. I'm going to open my pot and get these drained and ready to use. So I drained and rinsed my green beans. Nope, these are black. I've drained and rinsed my black beans, and I measured out 2 cups here. So we have 4 cups of diced sweet potatoes and 2 cups of cooked black beans. I have, probably about 2 or 3 cups of black beans left over. I'm going to measure them off and put them in a reusable container or a zip top bag that I'm going to put in my freezer. And that way, next time I need some black beans, I'll be able to thaw them really quickly in the microwave and use them in my recipe in a flash. Now, the next thing I want to do is get my sweet potatoes cooked. So I'm going to pour these into my trusty silicone steamer. You guys, if you don't have one of these, I definitely recommend that you look into it. You don't have to get the exact same one as I do here. Any one will do. But what I'm saying is you can save so much time in the kitchen by using a silicone microwave steamer. It's one of my favorite tools, along with my Instant Pots that I talked to you about last week. These are available on my website under the products section. You can find them there. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the steamer, but for now I'm going to throw this in the microwave for about 6 or 7 minutes, and we'll see what they look like at that point. And while my sweet potatoes are cooking in the microwave, I'm gonna go ahead and make some guacamole. I think we're all guilty of perhaps, buying some store-bought guacamole and feeling like, hey, maybe I paid way too much for this, when it's actually really super simple to make a guacamole at home. And in fact, you can even make a guacamole as well as the rest of your dinner in under 30 minutes. And that's exactly what we're doing here today. How do you know if an avocado is ripe enough or just the perfect doneness to eat? There's a little stem at the top here. I'm going to try to show you. The little stem at the top, you just remove it and then it'll look inside. You see how nice and bright green that is? Sometimes you'll take this off and it'll be, brown and kind of soggy. That means your avocado is probably pretty sad looking inside. This looks pretty promising. I think we have 2 perfectly good avocados to make our guacamole. So you just want to cut these halfway down the middle. Ooh, look how perfect. And then you just give the pit a good whack with your hand, making sure that you have a really steady grip on the avocado. I'll show you how that's done again. Ooh, another perfect avocado. This never happens. It's only because I'm filming, guys. You want to hold the half avocado really sturdy in your hand, making sure that your fingers aren't sticking out. And then you just line up your knife and give it a good whack, twist, and it just comes out like this. And then you can just carefully push it off your blade. Then you grab a spoon and just scoop the flesh into a separate bowl. I'm going to be using a hand blender to mix this up and give it a really smooth consistency, because that's how we love our guacamole here. But you don't have to do that. You could also just stick these in a bowl and mash them with a fork, or cube them before putting them in. And that's totally up to you and how you prefer your guacamole. So we've got our avocado in there. Beautiful avocado. Those were perfect. And then we're also going to add, so usually I have some limes hanging around in my fridge. I realized I didn't today. What I also always have as a backup is just some bottled lime juice. So I'm going to add a tablespoon to that. I'm going to add some garlic, so a clove of garlic with my trusty zester. If you watched my video last week where I made Instant Pot spaghetti, you know this is the way I love to get my garlic ready. Sure, you can chop it if you want, but that takes more time, and your hands are all sticky and they smell like garlic, which is fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is just my favorite way of doing it. It's quick and then we're done. And then the last thing we don't want to forget, as I'm throwing things around in my kitchen, is just a little bit of salt. And so a little bit of salt in here will make a huge difference. So I'm adding, maybe about half a teaspoon of sea salt in there or so. So I'm just gonna blend or whiz this up. I was trying to say both those words at the same time with my hand blender. And then I'll set it aside and we'll be ready to assemble our quesadillas. Look at this beautiful guacamole. I just blended this with my hand blender. It's all nice and smooth. Now, you can definitely stop here and keep it simple. 90% of the time, this is how we eat our guacamole at home. But you can also make it as fancy as you like and add things like chopped tomatoes, green onions, maybe even some cilantro if you like that. I'm just gonna go ahead, because I'm making this dinner in advance. And guacamole can, start to look bad pretty quickly. I want to give you a trick for storing it for up to a couple days in the fridge, actually. And the lime juice will help a lot for that. But you probably wouldn't be able to stretch it that far. So what we want to do is prevent any kind of air from getting into contact with the top layer of the avocado. So I'm going to spread this as smooth as possible in my and this is just a 1 cup bowl here. So 2 avocados made about 1 cup of guacamole. And then I have just a little bit of plastic wrap that I'm gonna go ahead and press down gently on the surface of the guacamole until it's all nice and trapped in there, you see? And then I'm just gonna pop the lid on, and this will stay super yummy in the fridge for like probably 2 or 3 days. After just 6 minutes in the microwave in the steamer, my sweet potatoes are ready to go. I love the steamer. You don't have to add any water. If you saw earlier, I just popped my sweet potatoes in here, 6 minutes in the microwave, and they're good to go. Alternatively, if you don't have one of these, you could steam your mashed potatoes in your Instant Pot or boil them in a little bit of water for probably, you know, between 8 to 12 minutes, something like that, until they're nice and soft. And basically, when you're testing these for doneness, you want to be able to mash them, because that's what we're gonna go ahead and do here. And so right in my steamer, so that we are not making any more dishes than we have to, because also good part of a nice easy meal is easy cleanup, right? So we'll get this mashed up, just, you know, it doesn't have to be a perfectly smooth paste or anything. Then we're gonna go ahead and add these 2 cups of black beans, and we'll mash just a little bit more to combine everything. And the next thing we wanna do is season this mix, right? So I'll be using spice blends from Epicure today because I use them in my kitchen all the time. I'm used to them. I love them because it just brings a whole other depth of flavor to my meals. Having said that, if you don't have them, that's totally okay. I'll tell you all of the substitutions that you can make if you don't have them. So I'll just grab a spoon here, give this a good mix, and I'll show you what this looks like. I've kept some chunks in there, just nothing too big. But again, depending on your family's taste, you can mash this more or less. So this is what mine looks like. So let's add some spices then. I have a nacho cheese dip mix, and I'll add about a tablespoon of that. Then I have a fajita blend. And because it's a little bit spicy and my kids' palates are a little bit sensitive, I'm gonna go ahead and do about 1.5 teaspoons of this. Again, you could adjust to your own taste. So if I didn't have these 2 seasonings, I would have added a tablespoon of chili seasoning or chili powder, and you know, about 1 teaspoon of cumin, and you'll get very similar flavors in there. Because again, we want to save on time, so you could add onions to this mix. I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of the 3 onion dip mix, and I'll add about 1/2 teaspoon of the roasted garlic aioli mix. If you don't have this, you can just add regular old garlic powder, and that will do the trick just fine. The last thing I want to add again is salt. Totally okay to salt your food if you're not eating processed, right? 75% of the salt we consume comes from processed foods. And so when we're eating foods made with whole ingredients, it's okay to add a little bit of sea salt for flavor. We'll give this a mix, and then our filling is ready to go. If maybe your sweet potato is a little bit dry and you feel like you're having a hard time mixing this, combining this, you can add a couple tablespoons of water. But this looks like it's coming together really well. Check it out. This is going to be really easily spreadable into my tortilla shells. Here we go. So let's assemble some quesadillas, shall we? So let's assemble some quesadillas. This is the last step for our recipe. So I'm just going to grab a flour tortilla. I'm using a whole wheat here, but you can use whichever kind you'd like. And I'm gonna go ahead and spoon about 1/5 or 1/6 of the filling. So we want this recipe to make anywhere between 5 to 6 different quesadillas. So I have about 1/6 of the filling here, and I'm just gonna mash it down onto one of the tortillas. This smells really good. Right, spread that as well as you can close to the edges. Then I'm gonna add just a little bit of shredded cheese to keep everything sticking together. So I've got about 1.5 cups grated for my entire recipe. So just a couple of tablespoons there on each wrap. And then I'm going to get a second one, and here's the trick. You just want to press this down pretty firmly, get all that filling to stay within those wraps, and now it's pretty solid and it's ready to go in the pan. So I'm using just a regular old nonstick pan for this. You could use cast iron too, it's whatever you'd like. And because we don't want to be adding too much oil to this, because the guacamole is going to be accounting for our healthy fat in this recipe, I've just got a little basting brush with a tiny bit of avocado oil here that I'm going to use to just brush the bottom of the pan just so that it's lightly oiled, but that, you know, we're not deep frying these quesadillas. And then I'm just going to pop this in the pan and wait 3 to 4 minutes until I hear this get nice and sizzly and until it gets crispy and golden on the bottom side. Check out how gorgeous this quesadilla looks. That is exactly how you want it to look. I forgot to turn my tap off. So this one's done. We'll put this in the pan. I'll just give the pan another little brushing of oil, and we can tell the pan is nice and hot now. We can hear that sizzling. I'm gonna turn it down to medium high, and I'll get my next quesadilla on there, and you can hear the sizzle. Just press it down. So this recipe made 6 beautiful quesadillas. So with 4 cups of chopped sweet potatoes, 2 cups of cooked black beans, and you know, some spices. And then also I used a cup and a half of shredded marble cheese. You can use whatever you want or leave it out altogether if you're going for a vegan meal. That's totally okay. The cheese just helps everything stick together. But you know, the combination of the sweet potato and the black bean is consistent enough that you may not need the cheese in there at all. So this is going to feed my family of 4 and definitely have some leftovers for the next day. If you wanted to feed a larger family, or you know, these freeze really well too, so it wouldn't be much more difficult to make a double batch and then to have some to freeze for another meal altogether, and all you'd have to do is pop them out of the freezer and throw them in the oven to warm up for a few minutes. So to serve, I would just cut this into 6 pieces. If it's still warm, you want to be careful because it will be kind of slippery with the cheese there. So just watch your fingers and make sure you're cutting on a stable surface. There we go, so 6 pieces. This is an adult portion for my kids. I would start them off with, you know, 2 or 3 pieces each, and then I give them more when they ask me. I would serve this alongside the beautiful guacamole that we made, maybe some salsa, some Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt, which I use now all the time instead of sour cream. It's just something that I always have on hand, so it saves me from having to buy that extra container of sour cream, and you know, in the end it tastes pretty much the same. And I would serve this alongside some steamed veggies like broccoli or cauliflower or a beautiful salad. Now, if you enjoyed today's recipe and want to learn to make it or others like this in your own kitchen, but you know, perhaps you don't have the time, the patience, or you know, the desire to meal plan, or the confidence that it takes to get in the kitchen and start cooking. If this is you, I have the perfect solution. Join the Horizon Coaching Solutions community as a VIP member. This way, you'll receive weekly dinner meal plans and grocery lists delivered straight to your inbox every single week. The subscription also includes access to 1 live monthly group health coaching call with me, as well as access to a private Facebook group for added support and accountability, and so much more. For all the details or to subscribe, visit my website, www.horizoncoachingsolutions.com/VIP. See you in the kitchen.